The vast emptiness of space shimmered as thousands of vessels appeared from hyperspace. First came the massive flagship Dauntless, its hull scarred from previous battles. Then followed wave after wave of human warships, until 700,000 vessels hovered in formation at the edge of Council space. Admiral June Park stood motionless on the bridge of the Dauntless, his eyes fixed on the holographic display showing their position relative to the nearest inhabited systems. He was a tall man with short gray hair and a face weathered by decades of command. The blue light from the displays cast shadows across his stern features. "Admiral, all ships report successful transit," said Lieutenant Sun at the communications station. "The fleet awaits your orders." June nodded but remained silent. This moment had been planned for years. After 2 centuries of isolation following the devastating Proxima attack, humanity had returned to the galactic stage. "They've spotted us," reported Commander Mina, pointing to blinking indicators on the tactical display. "Council detection networks are lighting up across 3 sectors." "Good," June said simply. "Let them see our strength." Across the bridge, officers worked at their stations with quiet efficiency. They all understood the importance of these first moments. The entire human fleet maintained perfect radio silence, their massive presence speaking louder than any message could. On the Council homeworld of Arudis, the detection of the human fleet caused immediate panic. Emergency sirens wailed across the gleaming capital city as citizens looked to the sky in fear. Inside the Grand Council chambers, representatives from 27 different species gathered in emergency session. Supreme Counselor Dole, his 4 eyes blinking nervously, addressed the assembly. "The humans have returned with the largest military force ever recorded. Our long-range scans confirm 700,000 warships." Gasps and murmurs filled the chamber. The diplomat Tak rose from his seat, his tentacles waving in agitation. "Impossible. Their homeworld was devastated in the conflict. They should barely have space travel, let alone this kind of force." "Clearly, we underestimated them," said military advisor Nam, her scaled face grim. "The question is, what do they want?" Back on the Dauntless, Admiral June walked slowly around the holographic display of Council space. The crew watched him with respect and a touch of fear. None had seen such a massive deployment before. "Status of all battle groups?" June asked. "Battle groups 1 through 28 report ready, Admiral," Commander Mina replied. She was younger than most senior officers, but her tactical brilliance had earned her the position. "All weapon systems charged. Shield generators at full capacity." June's weathered hands clasped behind his back. "And the Council? Any response?" "They're scrambling, sir. We detect emergency broadcasts on all their channels. Their military forces are mobilizing, but they're scattered and disorganized." A faint smile crossed June's lips. "As expected." The quietness of the bridge was broken when Lieutenant Sun spoke up. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the Council. They're requesting communication." "Let them wait," June replied. "Let them feel what we felt all those years ago. Uncertainty. Fear." In the Council chambers, the panic increased as reports came in that the human fleet was making no demands, sending no messages. They simply waited at the edge of Council space, their intentions unknown. "We must strike first," shouted one representative. "Before they can attack." "With what?" responded Nam coolly. "Our combined forces number less than 50,000 ships. We would be annihilated." Supreme Counselor Dole raised his hands for silence. "We must send diplomats. Perhaps there is a way to negotiate." As discussions raged in the Council, Admiral June ordered the fleet to spread out, forming a crescent shape that spanned an entire sector. The maneuver was performed with perfect precision, 700,000 ships moving as one. "Now they'll understand," June said quietly to Commander Mina. "This isn't a raid or an attack force. This is humanity's full return to the stars." "Sir," Lieutenant Sun called out, "the Council is sending a diplomatic vessel. They're requesting permission to approach and dock." June stared at the small blip on the display representing the diplomatic ship, then nodded slowly. Grant permission. Prepare the meeting room. He turned to face his bridge crew, his eyes reflecting the stars visible through the viewport. Remember this moment, he told them. Everything changes today. The Council diplomatic ship approached the massive human flagship Dauntless with extreme caution. It was tiny compared to the human vessel, like a sparrow next to an eagle. Inside the diplomatic craft, Ambassador Han paced nervously, rehearsing what he would say to these humans who had suddenly returned with overwhelming force. Han was chosen for this mission because he had studied human history more than any other Council diplomat. Still, his knowledge ended at the Proxima incident 2 centuries ago, when misunderstanding led to Council forces attacking human colonies. After that tragedy, humans had disappeared beyond the Outer Rim, seemingly defeated. Yet here they were, with ships numbering in the hundreds of thousands. Ambassador, we're docking now, the pilot informed him. The humans have provided landing instructions. Han straightened his formal robes and prepared himself. He expected to face anger, demands for reparations, perhaps even terms of surrender. What he did not expect was the calm efficiency with which the human crew received his small delegation. 4 armed guards escorted Han through the immaculate corridors of the Dauntless. He noticed that every human they passed wore a uniform bearing marks of rank and specialization. This was not a hastily assembled force, this was a society organized entirely around military purpose. When the doors to the meeting room slid open, Han was surprised to see only 2 humans waiting. Admiral Jun stood tall by the viewport, hands clasped behind his back. Commander Mina sat at the long table, data tablets neatly arranged before her. Ambassador Han, Admiral Jun said without turning from the viewport. Welcome aboard the Dauntless. Han performed the traditional Council greeting gesture. I bring words of peace from the 27 worlds of the Galactic Council. At this, Jun finally turned. His face showed no hatred, only a deep weariness. Peace? Now you want peace? Han swallowed hard. The Council recognizes the great suffering caused by the Proxima incident. We come to offer formal apology and discuss how we might. The Proxima incident was a long time ago, Jun interrupted, moving to the table. He pressed a button, and a holographic display appeared between them. This is why we're here. The hologram showed a distant star system Han didn't recognize. As he watched, strange ships, organic-looking and asymmetrical, moved toward an inhabited planet. The scene accelerated, showing these ships surrounding the world, attaching to it like parasites. Then, horrifyingly, the planet's surface began to break apart, consumed by these invaders. This was New Terra, our 5th largest colony, Commander Mina explained, her voice flat. Population 8 million. This recording is from 3 years ago. The hologram changed to show another system, then another, each meeting the same fate. Han felt his legs weaken, and he sat down heavily. What are these things? He asked. We call them the Devourers, Jun replied. They appeared at the edge of our territory 50 years ago. Since then, they've consumed 17 of our colony worlds. Han looked up sharply. 50 years? You've been fighting them for 50 years alone? Jun's expression hardened. We tried to send warnings. Your Council patrols destroyed our messenger ships, assuming they were scouts for an invasion. Han remembered those reports, unknown vessels approaching Council space, destroyed as a precaution. No one had considered they might be carrying vital information. We didn't come here for revenge, Ambassador, Mina said, changing the holographic display to show a star chart. We came to warn you. The Devourers have changed course. They're heading straight for Council space. Han stared at the projected path of these Devourers. Their trajectory would take them through the densely populated heart of Council territory. How do you fight them? Han asked, his voice barely a whisper. With everything we have, Jun answered. And it's barely enough. That's why we brought our entire fleet, 700,000 ships. Not to conquer you, but because that's what it takes to have even a chance against what's coming. Han's mind raced. The Council's combined defense forces numbered fewer than 50,000 vessels, most lightly armed after centuries of relative peace. Will you help us prepare? Han asked finally. June and Mina exchanged a glance. That's why we're here, June said. But there's little time. Based on their current speed, the Devourers will reach Council space in less than 30 days. Han felt cold dread spreading through him. The Council will need proof. They won't just take our word for this threat. We have proof, Mina said, inserting a data crystal into the table's port. Everything we've learned about the Devourers in 50 years of fighting them. Their biology, their technology, their tactics. June leaned forward. Take this to your council, ambassador. Make them understand, our old conflicts mean nothing now. Either we stand together, or we all fall. Han clutched the data crystal, understanding that the fate of 27 worlds now rested in his hands. The humans hadn't come as conquerors. They had come as the last warning before the storm. The Grand Council chamber had never been so crowded. Representatives from all 27 member species packed the circular room, their voices creating a storm of noise. At the center stood Ambassador Han, who had just finished presenting the evidence provided by the humans. This must be a trick, shouted Counselor Dole, pounding his four-fingered hand on the table. These humans appear after centuries with an enormous fleet, and we're supposed to believe they're here to save us? Han gestured to the holographic display showing the destruction of human colonies. The evidence is clear. These creatures, these Devourers, are real. They've destroyed 17 human worlds. Chief Scientist Sue stepped forward. She had been analyzing the data crystal since Han's return. Though small in stature, her presence commanded respect from the assembled leaders. The data is authentic, she stated firmly. I've verified the stellar coordinates. These recordings show actual star systems being consumed. The biological and technological analysis of these Devourers is unlike anything in our records, but the science is sound. Still, many counselors remained skeptical. Their mistrust of humans ran deep after generations of tension. The chamber doors slid open, and Admiral June entered with Commander Mina. A hush fell over the assembly. This was the first time most counselors had seen humans in person since the Proxima incident. Your time for debate is running out, June said, his voice carrying across the chamber without needing amplification. The Devourers have already entered what you call the Severed Arm region. The Severed Arm was a spiral extension of the galaxy, named for its appearance on star charts. It contained 3 council outposts and 1 major colony. Impossible, exclaimed Defense Minister Pak. Our monitoring stations would have detected them. Mina stepped forward, activating her portable display. Your stations were the first things they destroyed. Standard Devourer tactics eliminate observation points before moving on to larger targets. As if summoned by her words, emergency signals began flashing across the Council's main display. Red alert symbols appeared over the location of Outpost 17 in the Severed Arm. We're losing contact with Outpost 17, reported a communications officer, his voice tight with fear. Last transmission reports unknown vessels approaching, large numbers, organic configuration. The signal cut to static. The chamber erupted into chaos. Representatives shouted over each other, some demanding immediate evacuation, others calling for military action. June's voice cut through the noise. This is just the beginning. A scouting force. The main Devourer swarm is still 3 weeks away. Why should we trust you? Demanded Counselor Dole. You humans could have attacked our outpost yourselves to frighten us. Admiral June's patience visibly thinned. We brought 700,000 warships. If we wanted to conquer you, would we need this elaborate deception? Would we waste time standing here talking while your worlds could be seized? Chief Scientist Sue interrupted before tensions could escalate further. We're receiving visual data from automated probes near Outpost 17. The main display changed to show grainy footage from a distance. What they saw silenced every voice in the chamber. Organic mechanical ships, exactly matching the humans' descriptions, swarmed around the remains of the outpost. Parts of the station were being systematically disassembled and absorbed into the alien vessels. They're replicating, Mina explained. Everything they consumed, metals, organic matter, energy sources, gets broken down and used to create more of themselves. Defense Minister Pak rose shakily to his feet. How do we fight them? Together, June said simply. Your ships are fewer but have advanced targeting systems. Ours have powerful shields and weapons designed specifically to damage devourer biology. The emergency signals flashed again. Now Outpost 18 was going dark. They're moving faster than we anticipated, Mina said, her face grim. At this rate, they'll reach the colony at Narration 3 within 5 days. Narration has 6 million inhabitants, whispered someone in the crowd. Supreme Counselor Dole finally stood. His earlier hostility was replaced with grim determination. What do you need from us, Admiral? Full cooperation. Joint command structure. Immediate evacuation of the severed arm region. And preparation of all your military assets to join our defense force. For a moment, the chamber was silent as the gravity of the situation sank in. Then Defense Minister Pak stepped forward. The defense fleet of the 27 worlds is at your disposal, Admiral. June nodded. Commander Mina will coordinate with your fleet commanders. I suggest we begin immediately. As the council session adjourned into urgent action, Sue approached June privately. There's something you're not telling us about these devourers, isn't there? June's eyes met hers. Yes. The worst parts. But you'll learn those soon enough when you face them in battle. Outside the council chamber, urgent evacuation orders were already being transmitted across the galaxy. The severed arm was being abandoned to the coming storm. The command center bustled with activity as officers from 27 species worked alongside humans, coordinating the largest military operation in galactic history. Admiral June and Fleet Commander Tay stood before the main tactical display, studying the movement of enemy forces through the severed arm region. The Devourer scouts have completely consumed Outpost 19, Commander Tay reported, pointing to the empty space where the station had once been. They've increased in number by approximately 30% using the materials. Defense Minister Pak of the Council Forces looked ill. How do they convert matter so quickly? Nanoscale disassemblers, Tay explained. Once they touch a structure, they break it down molecule by molecule and rebuild it into more of themselves. The combined fleet had established defensive positions around the Durnian system, the likely next target based on the Devourer's trajectory. 40,000 council ships had joined 200,000 human vessels in a protective formation. Your council ships have excellent targeting systems, June noted, studying the specifications. But their shields won't withstand more than 1 or 2 hits from Devourer weapons. Minister Pak nodded grimly. We haven't fought a real war in 300 years. Our ships were built for peacekeeping, not survival. We can compensate for that, Commander Tay said. Position your vessels behind our heavy cruisers. Your precise weapons can fire through our shield gaps while we absorb the main assault. Scientist Sue entered the command center with a team of engineers. Admiral, we've adapted your shield frequency modulators to 20 Council destroyer-class ships as a test. They should now withstand Devourer energy weapons. Supreme Counselor Dole finally stood. His earlier hostility was replaced with grim determination. What do you need from us, Admiral? Full cooperation. Joint command structure. Immediate evacuation of the severed arm region. And preparation of all your military assets to join our defense force. For a moment, the chamber was silent as the gravity of the situation sank in. Then Defense Minister Pak stepped forward. The defense fleet of the 27 worlds is at your disposal, Admiral. June nodded. Commander Mina will coordinate with your fleet commanders. I suggest we begin immediately. As the council session adjourned into urgent action, Sue approached June privately. There's something you're not telling us about these devourers, isn't there? June's eyes met hers. Yes. The worst parts. But you'll learn those soon enough when you face them in battle. Outside the council chamber, urgent evacuation orders were already being transmitted across the galaxy. The severed arm was being abandoned to the coming storm. The command center bustled with activity as officers from 27 species worked alongside humans, coordinating the largest military operation in galactic history. Admiral June and Fleet Commander Tay stood before the main tactical display, studying the movement of enemy forces through the severed arm region. The Devourer scouts have completely consumed Outpost 19, Commander Tay reported, pointing to the empty space where the station had once been. They've increased in number by approximately 30% using the materials. Defense Minister Pak of the Council Forces looked ill. How do they convert matter so quickly? Nanoscale disassemblers, Tay explained. Once they touch a structure, they break it down molecule by molecule and rebuild it into more of themselves. The combined fleet had established defensive positions around the Durnian system, the likely next target based on the Devourer's trajectory. 40,000 council ships had joined 200,000 human vessels in a protective formation. Your council ships have excellent targeting systems, June noted, studying the specifications. But their shields won't withstand more than 1 or 2 hits from Devourer weapons. Minister Pak nodded grimly. We haven't fought a real war in 300 years. Our ships were built for peacekeeping, not survival. We can compensate for that, Commander Tay said. Position your vessels behind our heavy cruisers. Your precise weapons can fire through our shield gaps while we absorb the main assault. Scientist Sue entered the command center with a team of engineers. Admiral, we've adapted your shield frequency modulators to 20 Council destroyer-class ships as a test. They should now withstand Devourer energy weapons. Good, June replied. Begin immediate modification of all remaining Council vessels. Priority to frontline ships. Alarms suddenly blared across the command center. A sensor operator called out, multiple hyperspace signatures detected. Devourer scout force emerging at the edge of the Durnian system. The tactical display lit up with hundreds of enemy signals. The Devourer vessels were organic in appearance, with irregular shapes that seemed to pulse and shift. All ships to battle positions, ordered June calmly. Execute defense pattern Alpha 3. Across space, the combined fleet moved with practiced precision. Human battleships formed the front line, their massive shields glowing as they powered up. Behind them, Council vessels took up firing positions, their advanced targeting systems locking onto the approaching enemies. This is Admiral June to all vessels, his voice transmitted across the entire fleet. The enemy you face today consumes everything in its path. It cannot be reasoned with or surrendered to. Fight well, fight together, and remember, what we do here protects all life in the galaxy. The Devourer scouts accelerated toward the defensive line, showing no fear or hesitation. When they came within range, Commander Tay gave the order, all ships, open fire. The battle erupted across the blackness of space. Human vessels absorbed tremendous damage while Council ships fired with pinpoint accuracy through the gaps in their allies' shields. Wherever a Devourer ship was hit by the combined fire, its organic mechanical structure ruptured in explosions of strange bioluminescent fluid. On the bridge of his command ship, Admiral June watched the tactical display closely. They're focusing attacks on our largest vessels, he observed. Redirect Group 7 to reinforce the center. The battle raged for hours. Despite their technological advantages, the combined fleet took losses. 17 human cruisers and 8 Council ships were destroyed, their crews evacuating in emergency pods when possible. But the Devourer losses were far greater. Unaccustomed to coordinated resistance, their scout force was gradually reduced to scattered remnants. They're retreating, called out a sensor operator as the remaining Devourer ships pulled back and disappeared into hyperspace. A cheer went up across the command center, but Admiral June remained serious. They're not retreating, he said quietly. They're reporting back to the main swarm. In the aftermath, human and Council medical ships worked together to rescue survivors. Engineering teams studied captured Devourer fragments, looking for weaknesses to exploit. Commander Tay approached Admiral June privately. Sir, the captured Devourer ship's memory core has been partially decoded. What did you find? June asked. Tay's expression was grim. The main swarm is 100 times larger than we estimated. And they're accelerating toward us. June absorbed this information silently. Then he turned to Defense Minister Pak and Scientist Sue. The real test is coming. Today we learned we can work together. We learned their ships can be destroyed. But we need something more if we're going to survive what's coming. What do you propose? Asked Pak. A weapon we've been developing, June replied. A resonance disruptor that may break their hive-mind connection. But to deploy it, we'll need to push deep into their formation, a suicide mission for whoever carries it. Sue studied the Admiral's face. You've always known it would come to this, haven't you? From the moment we detected them changing course toward Council space, June admitted. The question now is, are we willing to make the necessary sacrifice? Space itself seemed to darken as the main Devourer swarm approached. On long-range sensors, the massive ships looked like a moving shadow, blotting out the stars behind them. 3 weeks after the first battle, the combined forces of humanity and the Council faced their greatest challenge. All civilian evacuation ships have cleared the defensive zone, reported Commander Mina from her station on the Dauntless. 12 billion people relocated to safe zones beyond the projected conflict area. Admiral June nodded, his face showing the weight of command. He had barely slept in days, coordinating the final preparations. Status of the resonance disruptor? Fully operational, replied Chief Engineer Tay. But as we discussed, it must be deployed at the center of their formation to affect the entire swarm. Once activated, the ship carrying it will have approximately 90 seconds before the energy overload destroys the vessel. The command center fell silent. Everyone understood what this meant. Defense Minister Pak stepped forward. My ship can carry the device. The Council should share in this sacrifice. No, June said firmly. The Dauntless was built for this mission. And I will command it personally. Commander Mina started to protest, but June raised his hand. This is not open for discussion. The assault force will need your tactical skills to succeed once the disruptor is activated. On the massive view screen, the Devourer swarm continued its approach. Billions of biomechanical ships moving as one organism, their hunger spanning across 12 star systems. June addressed the combined fleet, his voice calm and resolute. Today we face an enemy that threatens all life in our galaxy. Human and Council alike, we fight not for territory or resources, but for the right of all intelligent beings to exist. Remember your training. Trust your allies. And know that whatever happens today, the stars will remember your courage. The battle began with a massive coordinated strike against the outer edge of the Devourer formation. Human battleships led the charge, their powerful engines pushing them deep into enemy territory. Council vessels provided covering fire with their precision weapons, targeting the vulnerable connection points between Devourer segments. The Dauntless, accompanied by 50 elite cruisers, pushed toward the center of the swarm. Every ship in the escort force knew they were on a one-way mission. Enemy forces converging on our position, reported the tactical officer. They've identified the Dauntless as a primary target. As expected, June replied calmly. All ships, execute pattern Omega. Clear us a path. The escort ships moved into a protective formation, absorbing devastating hits meant for the flagship. One by one, they fell, their sacrifice buying precious distance. In the wider battle, the Council forces were taking heavy losses but holding their positions. The tactical link between human and alien ships grew stronger as the battle progressed, each learning to compensate for the other's weaknesses. The Dauntless shuddered as a Devourer beam struck its port side. Shield capacity down to 40%, reported Engineer Tay. We've lost engines 3 and 4. Distance to target? June asked, gripping the command rail as another impact rocked the ship. 8,000 kilometers, replied the navigation officer. 6 minutes at current speed. Commander Mina's voice came through the communication system from her position with the backup fleet. Admiral, you have Devourer capital ships closing from 3 directions. You won't make it to the target zone. We'll make it, June said with quiet confidence. Divert all power from life support to engines and shields. We only need 10 more minutes of air. The Dauntless surged forward, its remaining engines glowing white-hot from the strain. Around it, the last escort vessels fought valiantly, each taking dozens of devourers with them as they fell. 1,000 kilometers to target, called out the navigation officer. Enemy concentration increasing. They know what we're doing. All remaining ships, this is Admiral June, he transmitted on the open channel. Break off and retreat at maximum speed. The Dauntless will complete the mission alone. The bridge crew exchanged glances. None moved to leave their posts. It has been my honor, June said simply. The Dauntless pushed into the very heart of the Devourer swarm, its hull breaking apart under the continuous assault. When it reached the precise coordinates, Engineer Tay activated the resonance disruptor. A wave of energy unlike anything seen before expanded outward from the ship. Where it touched the Devourer vessels, their synchronized movements faltered. The hive-mind connection that made them so deadly began to unravel. From her command ship, Commander Mina watched the energy wave spread. All forces, advance. Target any Devourer vessel showing signs of disorientation. The combined fleet surged forward, exploiting the sudden weakness in the enemy's coordination. Devourer ships began firing on each other, their collective intelligence shattered into chaotic individual units. The battle lasted 3 more days, but the outcome was no longer in doubt. Without their hive-mind advantage, the Devourers were picked apart by the disciplined Human Council forces. 1 month later, the new Galactic Alliance convened its first formal meeting. Commander Mina, now Fleet Admiral, represented humanity. Admiral June and 200,000 human ships gave their lives, she told the assembled delegates. Along with brave Council forces, they saved not just our civilizations, but all life in this galaxy. A new memorial stood in the center of the Council capital, inscribed with the names of every ship and crew lost in the conflict. At its center, the Dauntless was depicted in sculpted light, forever charging forward against the darkness.